The brakes are going on traffic in Auckland CBD with new lower speed limits in effect for around 600 roads today. The new restrictions are part of efforts to bring down the number of pedestrian fatalities, but some businesses fear it will also limit the number of customers visiting the central city. Our cameraman Nick Munro and reporter Nita Blake-Person filed this report.
I declare this 30 kilometres an hour.
Andy Smith has been lobbying for safer streets in Auckland through Living Streets Aotearoa for decades. Today's a good day for him.
Slower speeds is good. There is place for speed, but it's not around these neighbourhoods.
This street is one of hundreds which has had its speed reduced today. Most limits in the city have dropped from 50 kilometres an hour to 30, except for Nelson, Hobson and Fanshawe, which will have 40 kilometre an hour speed limits. Some shared streets, such as Federal Street, will have a 10 kilometre an hour limit, and several rural roads have been cut from 100 to 80 kilometres an hour. Auckland Transport's Brian Sherritt says it's all about making the city safer.
In 2017, was at its peak, we had 64 deaths on the roads in Auckland, which is horrifically high for a city of this size. The year that's just gone by, we're down to about 40 deaths, which is really great news. But what we're seeing, though, is serious injuries haven't decreased. So whilst the crash severity has gone down, numbers of crashes actually haven't, and we're still seeing lots of people injured on our road network.
While cutting speed limits isn't the only answer, he says it will make a big difference.
The speed, if you bring the speed down, regardless of whether the issue has been whether you've been drinking or whether you're doing the wrong thing, it'll actually decrease the severity of the crash. So less deaths and less serious injuries. That's why it's so important. So it will take a little longer to get around the network than it did before, but I guess I look at the whole COVID-19 response we've had in New Zealand, where Kiwis have actually made a personal sacrifice, stayed at home during the lockdown for the greater good of the community. It's the same thing we're talking about here, a slightly longer journey time for the benefit of less death and serious injury across the network.
Parts of Auckland CBD are rivers of orange road cones. Amid construction and upgrades at the moment, Brian Sherritt says motorists are already going slow in parts, but bringing speeds down further means people are more likely to survive crashes.
Even when the road cones aren't there, the time you're waiting at traffic lights, the time when there's congestion, you're not travelling at that top speed anyway. But we know, from a pedestrian point of view, if you're travelling at that top speed and you have a collision with a pedestrian, that will seriously injure or kill them at 30 kilometres an hour or above.
New signs have popped up all over the city to signal the change. The first tranche of speed reductions is expected to cost around $9.5 million. And pedestrians say it's a boost for the city.
It's quite sensible to stop more pedestrians getting hit by cars. I don't have a problem.
The COVID experience meant that pedestrians owned the road more, and that sort of has changed with the kind of levels lifting. So I'd like to think the speed limit kind of gives a chance for pedestrians and cyclists to retain that rebalancing of road use and rights.
I think it's a good thing, but it's pretty quiet around here anyway, because the university is still kind of locked up. Be good to know in time whether it works well or not.
But not everyone's convinced. Michael Barnett of Auckland's Business Chamber fears the speed reduction will keep people away from shops.
We need to create something that does involve everybody, but what we seem to have addressed is the man, the woman in the car, right? There's a cyclist, there's the guy on the scooter, there's other people that are using this engine. We should have looked at their behaviour. The behaviour on crossing the streets, the jaywalks, the not using the crossings, the scooters on footpaths, all of these could have been addressed in the same word, for safety, as we could have done about driving.
But Andy Smith of Living Streets Aotearoa says that's rubbish.
It's not cars that shop, it's people. And no matter what the people do to get there, they will spend money if it's in a safe, pleasant environment where they're not rushed. That's why malls work. There are no cars, they're on the outside. And that's why streets work in a low, slow area. People will feel safe and browse. I used to play ball on the street. Cricket can be played on the street, it can't be played in your backyard. Why do we need everyone with a swimming pool, with a slide, with a swings, with a cricket pitch in their own backyards when there's a perfectly good one out here? And it's a huge amount of space considering, you know, each house has got a quarter of the road or something when you think about it. It's public space, it should be used.
It appears drivers not sticking to the rules won't be pinged immediately. Police will be in charge of enforcing the changes. They say they'll be taking an educational approach and will only deploy officers to affected roads if drivers are putting lives at risk. For Checkpoint, Corneta Blakeperson, TNA.